Hello, this is our proposal for our project for Team E for IFSC 5345. This is Team E, and we are going to explore the concept of human negativity bias. Uh, so let's get into it. What's on the agenda for this proposal is that we will introduce what the negativity bias is. We'll define what our task is. We'll also we'll also show you how we can understand negativity bias in humans. We'll also show some data sets for analysis as well as an overview of some sample data. And also, we will talk about information that would be needed by users of this data, and we'll also analyze we'll also show how we will analyze the strength of negativity bias and talk about some key takeaways at the very end. So first, we're going to talk about what negativity bias really is. So according to the APA, American Psychological Association, the negativity bias refers to basically the phenomenon of the mind where negative experiences, emotions, or information have a much greater impact on individuals than positive things such as uh, and then basically what this does is it influences perceptions and the decision making of people in society. So basically, there is an importance of understanding this bias. Basically, if we understand negativity bias, we could this would help us in improving our emotional resilience, decision making, and interpersonal relationships as a whole. And it also shapes how we interpret our experiences and respond to challenges. So this presentation will explore the nuances of this negativity bias and how it implies certain things to human behavior. And what this will also do is leverage data analysis to uncover its profundity in various contexts. So let's first define the task that we will be undertaking, which are the objectives of our analysis. So the objective of basically this video script is to create a compelling narrative that elucidates the concept of negativity bias, which will hopefully turn users to comprehend its origins and how it affects everyday behavior and choices made by humans. Some key questions we have to address will include what exactly triggers negativity bias, and not only that, how does it manifest in daily life, and what are the psychological implications associated with this bias. And basically, this analysis will have a specific scope, and basically what that scope is, it is basically a thorough investigation of both qualitative and quantitative data. And basically, we aim that this will provide a holistic view of the negativity bias and how common it is in various situations. So basically, our goal in understanding negativity bias in humans basically comes from I guess three main key factors that we will be examining. So the negativity bias really stems from evolutionary psychology, where basically our ancestors depended on it for survival because they needed to recognize threats and dangers more readily than positive things such as rewards or safety. And then basically this kind of leaked over into modern human society and shapes modern human emotional responses. Also another thing is that there are many examples of negativity bias that can be seen just with the naked eye, and that can be observed in decision-making scenarios, social interactions, and even media consumption. And how this I guess shows itself is that individuals react more strongly to critical feedback rather than to praise or positive experiences. Now, negativity bias can lead to overgeneralization of negative experiences, and this basically influences the cognitive distortions and contributes to mental health challenges such as neurotic disorders. And basically, some data sets that we will be using for analysis. We will utilize a combination of qualitative surveys, quantitative metrics, and also existing literature reviews to investigate the phenomenon of negativity bias across diverse populations. And basically, these surveys and metrics, we plan on we plan on either finding them in small samples ourselves, or if that is not possible, finding surveys that have already been done. And some sources of data basically include psychological studies and also surveys that we may or may not have done ourselves that were conducted on emotional responses and social media analytics that capture reactions to negative versus positive stimuli. And basically, how this is relevant to our goal is that these data sets are pivotal in identifying the patterns, correlations, and the relative strength of negativity bias in different social contexts. And this basically enhances our understanding of how common it is and what impact it has on us as humans. So some sample data that we will be overviewing in this proposal is that we will have I guess, illustrative data points that may include metrics such as the frequency of negative emotional responses in various situations and their correlation to decision-making patterns. And not only that, we will have various methods of collecting data, and these include, like we said again, online surveys, experimental psychology scenarios, and data scrapping from social media platforms in order to gauge public feelings and reactions. And not only that, we will need to, I guess, as the name of this class implies, we will need to visualize the representation of the data that we collect. And this will include graphs and infographics, which foster what we say is a good understanding and readily available understanding of key trends associated with negativity bias over time and across different populations within humans. So basically, the users of our information and data, what they will need in order to interpret it correctly is first we need to stick to some requirements. So basically, the users should require clear definitions. So to users, we really want to require clear definitions, contextual examples, and actionable insights in order to better understand the implications of negativity biases in their own lives. So basically, we want to show them through our data how, how a good overview of what negativity bias is and how it implies to their life. And basically, this also includes contextual information we provided them. So we'll provide contextual details concerning the relevance of these data findings to diverse socio-emotional settings, which are necessary for accurate interpretation and application. And basically, some guidelines we will set with users for interpretation is we'll provide users with frameworks for interpreting data trends, and this basically helps them in making sense of findings and encourages well-informed decision making and thus actions. And another thing we will need to do is, of course, analyze the relative strength of negativity bias. And basically, that's kind of a hard thing to do because we would have to basically quantify the bias. So basically, how we will analyze this is we will employ various statistical methods, including regression analysis, t-tests, and thematic analysis to basically quantify the presence and strength of negativity bias in our data sets. Now, some key findings that we might find is that it may reveal a strong correlation between negative stimuli exposure and increased levels of stress and anxiety, as observed in diverse populations. And of course, we also need to establish a statistical significance in our findings in order to validate the prevalence of the negativity bias and its implications on behavior and decision making. And so basically some key takeaways are that basically we will have elucidated the concept of negativity bias, and basically it will be supported by comprehensive data analysis, and basically it will evidence its significance in shaping human behavior and experiences. And one other of our goals is that uh, another of our goals is that we understand that it'd be necessary to, I guess, do further studies on how contextual factors influence negativity bias, particularly in varying settings, whether that varies by demographics or cultural settings. And basically, this paves the way for enhanced understanding. And basically, our real goal is to recognize and address negativity bias, and that's because by recognizing and addressing it, it's essential for promoting emotional well-being and fostering more balanced perspectives in our personal and professional lives. Okay, and that's basically our proposal for Team E with the human negativity bias. Thank you for listening.
Okay, well, thank you. Let me kind of I think I've seen, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what the team wants, but here you're talking about presentation. This is not going to be a presentation, and then later on, we're also talking about a video script, a video. So it's not a presentation and it's not a video. Should be an interactive visualization. And that visualization, you know, the user can interact in any number of ways with it. There shouldn't be a step one, step two, step three. Maybe there should allow a lot more freedom to interact. So I would not think of it as a presentation or a video script for what you need to create. So the main thing you need to create is an interactive visualization. So something that works for the user. They could explore the data in whatever ways you design it in there, but it should be relatively free. It cannot be just a video or a presentation. The other thing that in general, you're talking about kind of having this script to elucidate concept of negativity bias. In general, here and towards the end, it feels a lot like AI, generative AI. But I want you to kind of think about it more. This is very general. Guide reviewers to comprehend its origin and effects. In what sense? I mean, that is so general, especially the effects. There can be a lot of effects, and how do we use data visualization to kind of look at these effects? I know you tried some key questions, but what triggers negativity bias? How would we see that in the data? How does it manifest in daily life? And they may be okay, but I still think they're kind of general in, you know, how does it manifest? Psychological implications on that. Again, the psychological implications seems a very generic thing, and a lot of things can happen. Are we going to see all of them, or are we going to see some of them? Any visuals? The thing is, anything you can pick something and ignore something completely as far as psychological implication go. But I want this product, like I told everyone, I want this project to be very precise, you know, in what you're doing. I want you to recognize what the visualization is doing and what can be done with the visualization. So you would have to work a little bit more to define these. The other thing that I didn't get it, I know you mentioned here a little bit. Types of data and sources of data. Do you actually have a some place to download this data, or how are you going to get it? Qualitative surveys, quantitative metrics. Do they exist, or are you going to extract them from research paper? You're going to have to be careful with the amount of work required to extract them from research papers, unless you kind of have already that done. There's not a lot of visualization work involved in extracting that data. So I can give you some credit for it, but I want more to focus on the visual part, on the interactivity part, than on data extraction. Here also kind of, you mentioned patterns, correlations, strength. All of these are general. What kind of patterns are you going to see? Any pattern possible, because I can come up with something off top of my head, like I said, the square root of doubling the r squared plus 3 divided by the age of the patient equals a constant. Can we see that pattern? Probably not. I'm not saying it's useful, but it's not going to be there. So where is the data coming from? It's not clear that you have it. If you don't have it, think of the amount of effort that you're going to have to put in it. Visual representations are fine. Again, all of these are very general, providing user frameworks for interpreting. Interpreted in what sense? I mean, I can just show two numbers and the user just has a framework. Good, bad. No. Negative bias is bad, negative. Positive bias is good, green, and a plus to it. And that does provide something, but is it really what you think about it? This slide also kind of concerns me, just like the one for extracting data. Here you're talking about statistical methods, regression. So all of the statistical thing and statistical significance and all that, it's not a visual thing. Again, I can give some credit for it, but it's not going to be the bulk of it. The bulk of it should be the interactivity and the visualization part. So I'm looking for something more like that. Like I said, you may have to do some analysis, but it cannot be a it's not a statistics project. Now, if you already have the analysis done, or you're doing it for another class, that's fine with me, but you're not going to get much, consider the amount of effort you put into things that are not visualization related. And the final thing here, future. There is no future. If I know that we should consider that for the project. There is no future. The project ends I forgot, at the end, last day of class. I don't give any credit for that project for things that are not there in May. So could be used, fine, but you're not getting any more points for it. There's nothing in the grading criteria and in the way I'm looking at these that would give you points if the project could be used for something later, a month in July. It's not going to matter. There is no future. So all the data needs to be there, and everything that can be done with this needs to be done by May. Okay, so I'm not looking at. I'm not saying you shouldn't have. If you have some that could be used in the future, that's fine. It's just not going to give you any points at all for this project. So think of the here now, this semester. There is no what we could do in the future. It's what we're doing right now. So those are kind of my main things. Like I said, it worries me, the data, and it worries all the statistical analysis, and they're definitely going to be